We're here to present Trovotech. Trovotech is a startup that develops regulated technology and market infrastructures for innovative financing and investment through real-world asset tokenization and exchange of digital assets. What this means is that we build a technology infrastructure, that does what is called real-world asset tokenization. This is a picture of a large-scale agricultural facility, which comprises the farm. You have the processing facility. There's no reason why we cannot have self-sufficiency in agriculture in Nigeria. This is a modern manufacturing facility. There is no reason why we should not be able to manufacture things that we use in Nigeria. We don't have any reason to continue to import finished products when we have the raw materials available here. We should be able to build smart cities across the country, not just concentrating on few states like Lagos, Abuja, and probably Port Harcourt. We should be able to build smart cities across all the 30 states of Nigeria. There is no reason why our leaders should be traveling overseas to access medical treatments when we have what it takes to develop our own medical facilities to a global standard, such that people can actually go in and get medical treatment in these facilities, just like the way it's done all over the world. We should be able to build these facilities in our country. Electricity infrastructure is not something that we should still be lacking. Many years ago, we started experiencing epileptic power supply. It should have stopped by now. We should be able to build modern electricity infrastructure across the country and have 24/7 electric power supply. We should have road infrastructures that cuts across various cities in the country, where people can actually access various locations with ease. There's a lot of cities are congested. Okay, most of the traffic jams we have in the cities are caused by bad roads. Okay, so we should be able to construct new roads, toll the roads, and use the money generated from the toll to continue to maintain the roads. Modern rail infrastructure is something that we should have had in this country, so that the journey from one city to the other can be cut in half or improved drastically. Okay, the way it works in other countries where you have rail infrastructure, you can transport from one place to the other by rail. I don't see any reason why someone should not enter a train in Maiduguri and find himself in Port Harcourt in 4 hours. We should be able to have that. Someone should be able to enter a train in Lagos and find himself in Calabar in 3 hours. We have what it takes to establish this kind of modern rail transport infrastructure. We have moribund assets, refineries that have not been working for many years. There's no reason why we should not be able to establish modern refineries and have the oil that we have refined and exported, instead of us exporting the raw material and importing the finished product. We should not be doing that. We should actually have a processing facility where we can process the crude and refine the crude and be able to export the finished products. The same goes for seaports. We shouldn't have the seaports working only in Lagos. We should have seaports scattered all over the country. Wherever we have access to the sea, we should actually have a seaport there. Okay, and this will also help in decongesting our routes. We see containers taking container from Lagos to different parts of Nigeria. If we have seaports established in various parts of the country, we can then establish rail connections from the seaport to various parts of the country, so that when these containers come off the ship, they are loaded on the rail, on the tracks, and rail to wherever they are needed across the country. This is how the country should run efficiently. and when this is done, a lot of hazards will be eliminated on the road, and we have a better run country and system and a better environment as well. Now, let's talk about asset tokenization. What is asset tokenization? Okay, so I've shown you assets that can be tokenized, but some people may be asking, what exactly is asset tokenization? Asset tokenization is a process of representing physical and intangible assets as digital tokens on a blockchain, allowing the asset to be easily bought, sold, and traded on a global market, providing capital for asset owners and investment opportunity for everyone. Simply put, real-world asset tokenization is a process of representing physical and intangible assets as digital tokens on the blockchain. Anybody, anywhere can actually acquire this token, and that becomes an immutable proof that they are a part owner of the underlying asset, which has been tokenized. So what we've done is that we've created a platform that brings the asset owners and investors together. The barrier to entry has been lowered or has been completely removed, such that anybody anywhere in the society, irrespective of the status, can actually own any assets that they desire to own. Okay, and that becomes also a way of making asset owners have access to capital easily and quickly. Okay, so imagine a developer that wants to build a 500 units of housing estate. Instead of looking for 500 people to pay for the 500 houses, you can tokenize the estates as a unit asset and open it up for anybody to buy. So instead of looking for 400 people to buy and own these houses, you can invite the hundreds of thousands of people to actually buy and become co-owners of the estate. Whatever income that is generated by these assets, they will also get a share of it, based on their percentage holding of the asset. So the solution we're coming up with is a transformative real-world asset tokenization solution that reduces costs because there is no intermediary. It boosts accessibility. Everybody is given access. It enhances transparency. It is transparent because blockchain makes it transparent, unlocking the potential in billions in illiquid traditional or alternative assets, providing secure project financing and improved liquidity by connecting global investors to traditional and alternative assets through a regulated digital exchange. Okay, so that's exactly what we're saying. When you tokenize these assets, you bring them to the capital markets. You have unlocked liquidity in these assets and you have given access to everybody to participate in owning these kind of assets. And you have also connected global investors, traditional assets through a regulated digital exchange, because the digital exchange that we have can actually be accessed from any part of the world. It's open to the globe. Okay, so now the reason why I shared those pictures, or I showed those pictures earlier, and now I'm showing the use cases, is to let us know that asset tokenization is a process that can enable us to rapidly develop our economy. All right. Imagine some project developers that are looking for capital to develop projects. They want to develop this project. They have the capability to do it. They have the expertise, but they have challenge of raising capital to build these projects. So if you have a platform that can give opportunity to everyone anywhere in the world to contribute to development of a particular project, they will be able to do it. If real estate developers have opportunity of raising capital from the streets, like I said earlier, instead of looking for 500 people that can buy 500 units of housing, you get 20,000 people, 50,000 people, 100,000 people, 1 million people contributing little amount of money to it. It will enable you to rapidly develop the real estate projects and cover the housing deficits that we have here. The same goes for different kinds of assets. And for asset owners who are looking for ways to divest or the risk or diversify, right? So they can begin to sell parts of their assets and just retain some interest in them. So this platform gives you the flexibility to trade with your assets as you like. Now, the use cases for asset tokenization is actually limitless. So we've just listed a few assets that can be tokenized, which of course I've also shown you before. You talk about real estate. Investors easily buy and sell fractions of real estate properties, also receive returns from proceeds of lease and rent. Okay. So when these assets are tokenized, the asset token holders will continue to receive income from the proceeds of lease and rent of these assets. Okay, you can tokenize agriculture, where investors buy fractions of ownership of the agricultural land, which can be easily traded or on a global marketplace. Okay, not only can people own a piece of the agricultural land, they will also own a piece of the crops that are produced there, the animals that are reared there, the processing plant that is used to process the plants. So they co-own these things and they receive income from the revenue generated by these assets. Commodities can also be tokenized: gold, silver, oil, steel, sugar, wheat, coffee. All right, these can be tokenized as commodities, or like tokenizing the warehouse receipt. When these assets are kept in a warehouse, or you can tokenize the safekeeping receipts in case of gold, precious metals, and the rest of them. Okay, that are held by financial institutions. Okay, you can tokenize infrastructure projects like dam, bridges, roads, airports, seaport, refinery, renewable energy plants, municipal water projects, etc. All these can be tokenized. You can tokenize sports team. For example, football clubs. You can tokenize basketball clubs. You can tokenize volleyball clubs. You can tokenize any kind of sports team, and raise capital from the public, and the public could own these clubs, and the clubs can then run and continue to make money. Whatever the club generates, is distributed to the owners of the club. Okay, so like I said, the possibilities are endless. A whole lot of things. Any asset that has value, that can generate income, can actually be tokenized. Okay, so imagine what this would do for our country when project developers have access to capital. Imagine what this would do for our continent when anybody, anywhere, can actually own any assets that they desire to own. Okay, so this is a way of empowering people. Imagine that government starts tokenizing some of the assets that they are holding. Okay, so this becomes a way of giving the citizens the opportunity to own these assets. Different assets can be tokenized from different sectors, from real estate to infrastructure to agriculture to financial assets like mutual funds, bonds, commercial papers, warehouse receipts for commodities, and so on and so forth. And the platform we have built makes it possible for this to happen and for people to gain this access. Now, if you look at our continent today, taking Nigeria, for example, the number of people that have the money to be able to acquire assets today, they are not much, maybe less than 5% of the population. Nigeria is a country of 200 million people, but when less than 5% of people have the money to actually buy assets. So what happens to the rest of us? So we are trying to open up the economy for everybody to be able to participate. So when you now look at the kind of impact that what we are doing is going to make in the economy, these people that don't have much money to buy assets, to own a house, to invest in things like rail infrastructure, power plants, refineries, or even agricultural processing facilities and all of that, right? With the little amount they have, they can actually invest in these assets. And as the asset generates revenue, they are going to be receiving regular income from the assets. Okay, so imagine the amount of money that is left in the streets that can be brought into the capital market when you have this kind of platform. All right, so this is what we are looking at. And also it gives some Nigerians in diaspora to have a reliable platform that they can use to invest at home. And they can send money from abroad to invest in developing the country. And any other person that even if you're not a Nigerian and you have a reliable platform and a regulated platform that you can use to invest in Nigeria, I mean, you can as well do that. But ultimately, the greatest impact we are going to be making here is giving the everyday people an opportunity to own any kind of asset that they desire to own. Now, what is the reason why we are doing it? The reason why we are doing this is because we know that today, the capital market needs to be more developed. and needs to be more deepened. So by bringing these assets that are today excluded from the capital market into the capital market will help to deepen the market and also help these asset owners or project developers to gain access to capital, and also help everyday people to also access and begin to own assets that they don't have access to today. So the products that we have developed, for making this whole thing possible, is an integrated solution that comprises the Trovo app, which comes in web and mobile version. So the Trovo app is a decentralized, non-custodial platform for asset tokenization. Trovo app is a primary gateway for tokenized securities. It features multi-signature wallets, multi-sub-wallets, and a range of advanced features for the secure storage and exchange of digital assets. So I talked about decentralized, all right? Blockchain technology guarantees decentralization of operation. I talked about non-custodial. Non-custodial means that anybody that has an account on the Trovo app is solely responsible for keeping their assets. What it means is that we as Trovotech, we are not the ones custodying people's assets. People are responsible for keeping their assets by themselves. The reason why we have chosen to develop this platform in such a way as this is that we don't want to be responsible for keeping people's assets. And it also safeguards people's assets such that in any unlikely event that our platform is hacked, nobody's asset can be missing because we are not keeping any. Okay, so the only possibility of stealing people's assets is by going to them individually and hacking their devices, which is practically impossible. So when you have such a system, it guarantees the safety and security of the users of the platform. Okay. The next product we have is Trovo P2P. It is a market infrastructure for the decentralized, again, non-custodial and peer-to-peer trading of digital assets. It's equipped with a platform-managed escrow service. Trovo P2P serves as a secondary market for tokenized assets, ensuring safe and secure transactions on a global scale. Okay, so we've explained what non-custodial is. Now we talk about peer-to-peer. I always tell people that the most efficient mode of transaction is person to person. So if I have something that I want to sell and I see a buyer that wants to buy, it's easier and most efficient to just give the item to the buyer and collect cash from the buyer, and everybody goes home. As a matter of fact, in the olden days when trade by barter was in place, if I have a goat I want to exchange and I see someone that has a sheep and I like the sheep and the person likes my goat, we can just shake hands and I take the sheep, he takes the goat, and everybody goes home happy. So this is what we are bringing back. This is like a 21st century trade by barter, where someone comes to a platform and sees something that he likes and another person is looking for something he has. You can decide to just shake hands with the person and exchange the item, and everybody goes home happy without any intermediary. I mean, if I like a sheep that someone has and I have a goat, I don't need to look for someone to tell him to go and tell the person that I like the sheep, and the person will now look for somebody that knows him to go and tell him that I like the sheep. He will now tell the person, okay, I'll give you the sheep. He will now go and give it to another person that will bring it to me. I mean, it's a long process. So there's no intermediary between myself and the person I need to trade with. All right. So anybody I want to trade with, I trade with him directly. And the settlement happens immediately within few seconds. So I don't need anybody to come in between to settle the transaction. And the blockchain keeps accurate record of all the people who are doing the transaction, who owns what at what time, who exchanged what at what time. So the blockchain keeps accurate record of that. So that is a decentralized ledger, like a registry of all the token holders and all the transactions that are happening within the platform. Okay, so how does asset tokenization work? We've explained what asset tokenization means. So how does it really work? So it starts from the Trovo app. Remember that we said that the Trovo app is a primary gateway, to the Trovotech ecosystem. Asset owners or project promoters will apply to tokenize assets on the Trovo app. When that is done, when everything is fine, every document has been submitted and received, it will be vetted. Once the vetting is concluded, due diligence is carried out on the assets and the owner to meet all regulatory requirements. Once the due diligence is done and it's approved, then it will pass to the regulator to give approval to tokenize. All right, so if approval to tokenize is given by the SEC, digital tokens that represent the real assets are created on the blockchain. Then the digital tokens are sold to vetted and verified investors in primary offering. Of course, the real assets underlying the token are held by a custodian or a trust, which is managed by a third party. The trustee ensures the assets are properly cared for and that the rights of the token holders are protected. So the underlying asset that has been tokenized has to be handed over, has to be transferred to a trustee who is going to hold it on behalf of the asset owners. Because the token holders will not have the underlying asset. Because what represents their ownership in the underlying asset is the token, the digital token that they are holding. So the underlying asset itself will be held by a trustee that will represent or that will protect their own interests in the asset. Okay, then investors can then trade the digital token on a global secondary market, which allows for increased liquidity in the market for the asset. Proceeds are paid out to investors as the underlying asset generates revenue. So if it is an asset that that generates income, right? Of course, which the investors bought as equity investors in the asset or part owners of the asset. That asset, while it operates, it will continue to generate revenue, and the revenue or the income generated by the asset will be distributed to all the holders of the token. Okay, if the tokenized asset itself is a fixed income asset, right? Of course, the payback for the debt will also continue to be given to the token holders until it is fully liquidated. And for physical assets, when the asset is sold or kind of liquidated, the proceeds of sale will also be distributed to all the holders of the token. Now, how does Trovo P2P work? Market makers create buy and sell order on the Trovo P2P platform at prices determined by them. So when these orders are created, they are displayed in the marketplace. So anybody who logs into the Trovo P2P using their Trovo account can actually see all the orders in the market that have been created by market makers. And anyone who has liquidity of the asset token and liquidity of cash or any other currency of trade that they want to use and buy or sell assets can actually apply to become a market maker. As long as you have liquidity and you have met the requirements to participate on the Trovo P2P platform, you can actually apply to become a market maker so that you can create part of the people creating the orders that are displayed in the marketplace. Okay, so when these orders are created and displayed in the marketplace, a peer initiates either a buy or sell trade with a maker peer on the Trovo P2P platform. So the maker is notified about the request to trade and either accepts to trade or rejects the request. If the request is accepted, the selling peer sends the digital asset to the platform-controlled escrow. Then the buying peer is notified that the asset is secured in escrow and asked to make payment to the selling peer. The buying peer makes payment to the selling peer's payment details displayed by the platform. So the platform will display the details where the payment will be made. Okay, so we discourage people from going outside the platform to do any transaction because the safety of your transaction is not guaranteed when you do it outside the platform. But as long as you remain on the platform and you follow the instructions that is given by the platform, there is no possibility of harming anybody or scamming anybody on the platform. Okay, so once the payment is made, the selling peer confirms the payment receipt. And once the selling peer confirms payment receipt, the digital asset is released from the escrow to the buying peer. Okay, that's it about Trovotech. Okay, now what can you do with us? What you can do is that you can start preparing to tokenize your assets If you have an asset that you want to tokenize, you just have to go through the preparation to tokenize the asset by ensuring that you have all the documents of the asset ready. You need to register an account on the Trovo app. All right. You need to decide how much of the assets you want to sell. You need to decide how much or propose how much token you want to issue that represents the assets. If you have a trustee, a preferred trustee that will hold the asset, you can also propose that. If you have an issuing house you want to work with, you can propose that. If you have a custodian that you want to work with, you can also propose that as well. If you have an asset manager you want to work with, you can propose. But if you don't have all these stakeholders, we can also assign those stakeholders to the transaction. You can liaise with us to get you prepared to tokenize your assets by ensuring that you have all the requirements. Of course, you know that there are some fees involved in tokenizing the assets, so you're also going to pay the fees that are involved. So let's discuss and see how we can take this forward and help you meet your objectives for tokenizing your assets. Thank you.